Till I get no more, I'm gonna take my horse to the old town road. I'm gonna ride till I get no more. I got it home and miss a man. Body's bare. Woody teddy bear. No pockets knocking there. Barry's on the roofs. Whoops, I'm by Tucker's troops. Everybody guessing every time and I know. Anybody tell me nothing. She's not nobody nothing. Everybody tell me nothing. Tell me no... Alors, normalement j'ai la cam là, allez. Pourquoi ça marche pas? Oh, elle est branchée pour toi. Ah, ah, ah. Aperçu. Ah! Toujours pas. Option de la caméra, déplacer affiche. Là! Et voilà, là, elle est bien. Et voilà. Ok, nouveau jeu. En vrai, ça a l'air vraiment bien ce jeu, mais... Je connais vraiment pas Pente. Je suis remis derrière. Ain't nobody tell me nothing. Nobody tell me... Alors. Et voilà. Le ballon. Et voilà, donc là on est bien. Attends, hop, j'avais une... J'avais quoi déjà? Voilà. Qu'est-ce que je voulais? Je sais plus. Ah oui. On va... Ah bon, on va le mettre là, le live. Maintenant qu'on a un PC qui marche. Enfin, un écran qui marche. On voit rien. On voit pas mes yeux. Si. Alors. Y a pas des... Qu'est-ce qu'il fait? Wesh. Merde, tu fermais la porte?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Meeting room. Where is it? C'est quoi ce jeu de backroom de ouf là?
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Dans celle de gauche? Sur celle de gauche? Putain, mais là... Waouh. Ah, mais y'a plus de... Putain, mais ça me... Vas-y, celle de gauche. « 412, 411... » C'est quoi ça? Oh, c'est un métier comment?
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
What the fuck?
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
C'est en haut le bureau, il a dit. What the fuck? On se fait battre ici. Hein. Merde. What the fuck?
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this.
Oh, y a un
What
coffre
dark
là.
secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845. "2845. Forgot, but it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened all by itself, and Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo. Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself.
Oh merde, je sais mieux. Qui est sur le live?
To find out.
J'ai vu, il y a quelqu'un sur live qui sait. Attends, juste enregistrer ce miniature en 2 spi. Tac, tac, tac. Tac, tac, tac. Si tu peux mettre un petit com, s'il te plaît, comme ça je vois qui c'est. Non. Comment on fait déjà? Ouais. Tac, 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 tac. Attends 2 secondes. Non, c'est pas ça. Ça va pas marcher. Sur le... Voilà. C'est bon. Ok. Mes cheveux me... En vrai de vrai, si je mets la cam ici... Est-ce que c'est pas tout smooth? Après le problème c'est que je vois rien quoi. Non ouais ça le fait. Mais du coup il y a de la lumière partout mais... Ah oui. Mais...
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
C'est quoi ça?
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Putain. Cinq. Attends. Je viens de capter un truc, je crois. Il y a peut-être un sens.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
Oh merde.
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his.
Ah, mais là, en vrai, c'est
That
pas
was
bien.
all he needed to know.
C'est pas ouf là.
It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing.
Et
Stanley
là,
stepped through the open door.
là, ça pue là. Bon, on va remettre là. Écoute, c'était très bien ici. C'était centré ici. Voilà. Tu me Liverpool. Oh, non. What the fuck?
Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Oh, la lumière de ouf. Et j'ai déjà fini. Ah, mais c'est un jeu avec plein de fins. C'est nul à chier.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Ça pue la merde comme jeu. C'est nul à chier, ça pue du cul. C'est de la merde.
When Stanley
Qui est sur le
came
live?
to a set of
Ah,
two
bah c'est quoi, je
open
prends la
doors,
porte
this
droite
was
maintenant.
not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Bah les couilles, frère.
Yes, truly a room worth admiring. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been
C'est
about
n'importe
nothing
quoi
but
ce jeu de
you
con là.
all this
Qui est sur mon
time.
live?
There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me. This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself. To put your work aside. To let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
Oh wow.
That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this.
Ouais, il est stylé le jeu, mais il est un peu nul, hein. En vrai de vrai. Enfin, ça va. C'est un peu bizarre.
Oh, Stanley, is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Gotcha. Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife?
Ah, il est là pour abattre.
I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here.
Mais il est génial ce jeu.
This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley. Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him.
Moi je suis un mec
Every
ennuyeux
button
moi.
that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his
Vas-y frérot.
existence. Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work.
Ah,
One might even
ici,
feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life.
Ma bitch appuie sur X, ouais. Faut que je suis votre salope, c'est bon? J'appuierai pas. J'appuierai pas. Ça sert à rien. Je crois que je suis obligé en fait.
But in his mind, in his mind he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful. And each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him.
Non. J'ai pas envie de regarder la télé. Elle loue la télé. C'est ça la télé?
And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly.
Pour passer du temps entre potes.
So he went further. He imagined that he came to 2 open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice.
Ok.
It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold. As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations.
Ah, j'ai
Down one
capté.
path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable.
Et là, ça va changer là.
It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would
Over
never
and
end,
over and over
that
and
he
over.
might always feel this free.
Over
Surely
and
there's an
over
answer
and
down some
over
new
and
path,
over.
mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time. But there is no answer.
C'était sûr.
How could there possibly be?
C'était
In
sûr.
reality, all he's doing is
C'était
pushing
sûr.
the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one. And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it.
No problem, brother. Alors là, je ne prends pas la manette. Fini. J'arrête là. Ça marche pas en fait. Il faut... Je vais pas rester là à pas appuyer sur les touches. Il faut que j'appuie sur les touches.
You see? Can he just not hear me?
Ça fait 1 heure que j'appuie pas, frérot. Qu'est-ce que tu veux? Je peux rester toute la journée à regarder le truc, frère.
To kill himself. How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself? I suppose I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley.
En fait, ça pue une leçon de vie.
I'll try once more to
C'est incroyable ce
convey
jeu.
this to him. I'm compelled to. I must.
C'est une putain de leçon de vie.
Maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again. And Stanley pushed a button.
Oui, bah
And I
super le
tried
jeu.
again. And Stanley pushed a button. And I tried.
En fait, c'est vraiment une leçon de vie ce jeu. The end is never the end. En fait, je crois que
All of his
des fins.
co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Et ça recommence.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he
Là, à
entered
droite
them.
encore.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow, yes, this room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Cette fois, on va aller
And
là.
so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track. But Stanley didn't want to go back to the office. He wanted to wander about and get even further off track. So now in order to get back, he needed to go, from here it's, left. Oh, no, it's to the right, my mistake. No, not the right. Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking? It's clearly... Oh dear, would you hold on for a minute, please?
Il est génial ce jeu.
Now, let's see. We went down right, left, down, left, right. Yep, okay, yes. I've got it now. This story is absolutely, definitely this way.
Et ouais, et en fait c'est le truc que j'ai vu tout à l'heure.
No, this isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler. Quick, Stanley, close your eyes. Okay. We just have to get back to, oh, who am I kidding? It's all rubbish now. The whole story completely unusable. How about rather than waste my time trying to salvage this
Attends, faut qu'on trouve le 427, ça se trouve il y a un truc.
game from the beginning. And this time, suppose we don't wander so far off track, hmm? Okay, from the top.
C'est fini. On recommence. Ah, j'en peux plus.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Cette fois, on va prendre à gauche le good way comme d'hab. Mais
When Stanley... Wait, what? No, I restarted. I swear, I definitely restarted the game over, completely fresh. Everything could be... Oh, did something change? Stanley, did you change anything when we were back in that room with all the monitors? Did you move the story somewhere or... Hold on. Why am I asking you? I'm the one who wrote the story. It was right here just a minute ago. I know for sure that it's here somewhere. Okay, then. It's an adventure. Come, Stanley. Let's find the story.
moi je vais celle-là. Top. Celle-là. Ouais, bro. Alors me dis pas c'est un labyrinthe.
I'll say it. This is the worst adventure I've ever been on. I can promise you there definitely was a story here before. Do we need to restart the game again?
Non.
Well, I find it unlikely that we'll ever progress by starting over and over again, but it's got to be better than this. Okay, let's give it a shot. Why not?
Il se fout bien de ma gueule.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Putain, y a même plus de porte.
Okay, yep, it's worse. I might be remembering this wrong. It's possible the story is back where we just came from. Why don't we go back the other direction and see if we missed anything?
Oh! Une porte.
Aha! I knew we'd miss something. The story.
C'est
Here it
mindfuck, hein.
comes.
J'ai putain de
No,
mindfuck.
wait, never mind. Not the story. Okay, let's head back the other way and retrace our steps. Now this... Well, I'll be honest, I don't recognize this place at all. Is this the story? I don't think so. I can't quite recall, but I believe my story took place in an office building. Is that correct? Do you remember, Stanley? Well, do you know what? Since I've completely forgotten what we were supposed to be doing, how about this? You win! Congratulations! I know you put in a lot of hard work, and it really paid off, so good job. Oh, no. No, I don't feel right about this at all. We both know you didn't put in any actual work for that win. Some people win fair and square, and this was not one of those situations. Okay? I'm getting weirded out by whatever this place is. I don't care what might happen this time. I have to restart.
Putain!
All right, I've got a solution. This time, to make sure we don't get lost, I've employed the help of the Stanley Parable Adventure Line. Just follow the line. How simple is that?
Pourquoi je suivrai les lines? Pourquoi est-ce que j'en ferai pas qu'à ma tête?
No, I'm down. We're leaving it up to the line from now on.
Et si j'ai pas envie? Moi j'ai pas le choix.
You see? The line knows where the story is. It's over in this direction. Onward, Stanley, to destiny. Though, here's a thought. Wouldn't wherever we end up be our destination, even if there's no story there? Or to put it another way, is the story of no destination still a story? Simply by the act of moving forward, are we implying a journey such that a destination is inevitably conjured into being via the very manifestation of the nature of life itself? Okay, Stanley, I need to follow this train of thought for a minute. Just stick with me. Now, we can both agree that the nature of existence is in fact a byproduct of one's subjective experience of that existence, right? Okay, now if my experience of your existence rests inside of your subjective experience of this office, is this office in fact the skeleton of my own relative experiential mental subjective construct? Whoa. Hang on. That got a bit weird back there. Well, I'd like to apologize. Not sure where I was going with all that. You know what? I think what we need right now is a bit of music to lighten the mood.
What? Ah! On va faire comme... Je comprends pas. Une musique des orbes humides dans mes oreilles, frère.
Wait, cut the music. Go back and look at that fern. Stanley, this fern will be very important later in the story. Make sure you study it closely and remember it carefully. You won't want to miss anything.
D'accord. Une fougère, quoi. On est reparti. On a plus de musique, là.
We're back at the office? No. Line, you do know we're looking for the Stanley Parable, right? The story? Is any... Oh, no, not again. Line, how could you have done this to us? And after we trusted you, after everything we've been through, you... Oh, I can't take this anymore. To hell with it. Restart.
Mais non!
Stanley, I say forget the adventure line. What's it ever done for us? We're intelligent people, right? Why can't we
suivante.
make up our own story? Something exciting, daring, mysterious. Ooh, this all sounds perfectly doable. Why don't we simply start wandering in, well, I don't know. How about this direction? Now, yes, this is exciting. Just me and Stanley forging a new path, a new story. Well, it could be anything. What do you want our story to be? Go wild. Use
les
your
bâtards.
imagination. Whatever it might be, Stanley, I'm ready for it.
C'est un putain de labyrinthe encore, mindfuck, là je comprends
Oh,
rien.
no, not you again. Stanley, I'd also like to veto the line from having any role in our awesome new story. No lines or monitor rooms. Just don't acknowledge it, and we should be fine. Ah, a choice. We get to make a decision. From here, the story is in our control. How important we mustn't squander the opportunity. In fact, I believe I need a minute to think here. Just walk in circles for a minute. Okay, so I know that each door has to lead somewhere, which means that somewhere at the place where we're trying to go, there must be a reverse door that leads here. And that in turn means that our destination corresponds with the counter-inverted reverse door's origin. So starting from the right, let us ask, will taking the right door lead us to where we're going? And since the answer is clearly yes, then by all accounts, the door on the right is the correct
La porte de droite est la
Another
bonne!
victory for logic. Come, Stanley, our destiny awaits.
On y va. C'est toutes les fins qu'il y a?
Oh, hold up, what's this? The confusion ending. You're telling me that's what this is? It's all one giant ending? And we're supposed to restart the game, what, eight times? That's really how all this goes? It's all determined? So now, according to the schedule, I restart again. Then what? Am I just supposed to forget? Well, what if I don't want to forget? My mind goes blank simply because it's written here on this thing, wall.
C'est toutes les fins.
Well, who consulted me? Why don't I get to decide? Why don't I get a say in all of this? Is it really? No, it can't be. I don't want it to be. I don't want the game to keep restarting. I don't want to forget what's going on. I don't want to be trapped like this. I won't restart the game. I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it. And the timer stopped? Does that mean, did we do it? Did we break the cycle? The, whatever it is that made this schedule? How would we even know? Will someone come for us? Will something happen?
Pourquoi il y a une chaise là?
So, okay. I guess now we just wait. You know, I suppose in some way that this is a kind of story. Wouldn't you agree? I'm not quite sure if we're in the destination or the journey, though they're always saying that life is about the journey and not the destination. So I hope that's where we are right now. We'll find out, won't we? Eventually. Well, in the meantime, if you...
Qu'est-ce qui s'est passé? Non. Non.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now hearing the voice speak,
J'arrête, frère. Je vais pas faire que ça.
After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt
Ça me fatigue ce jeu, quoi.
the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
Il dort ce jeu.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice?
Qu'est-ce qui se passe?
Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
C'est quoi ce jeu de dégénéré là? Ils sont drogués les créateurs ou quoi?
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief
Il me
moments,
fatigue pour
she
de vrai ce
considered
jeu
the
là.
strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better.
C'est une folie, ce jeu.
Then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Neuf heures pour finir le jeu. Putain.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Qu'est-ce que j'ai fait? J'en peux plus, je comprends rien.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. The lounge was sublime, a work of art. What was it about this room that called so deeply and so personally to Stanley? Its grace? Its subtle charm? No. Stanley knew, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his... Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Il est génial ce jeu. Ah. C'est super long. On est encore là? J'en peux plus.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues to his situation. But his attention was caught by a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could its purpose be? In fact, this keypad guarded the terrible secret that lay buried below his feet. and so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Ça, je l'ai fait tout à l'heure, je suis allé là-bas. Je suis obligé d'aller là, de toute façon. C'est ça qui a tiré, c'est ça.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read
On va escape this time.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death. The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
On fait pas demi-tour,
Stanley
nous.
was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death. As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what his life is. Perhaps his death was of
J'ai pas envie de mourir.
like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
I'm done.
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Oh, j'ai peur. Stanley.
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever.
Non.
What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
Ça me paraît trop bizarre ce jeu. Je peux pas avoir fini comme ça, frère. Ils peuvent pas faire un musée alors que ce jeu il est fou, frère. C'est vrai, pardon. Ça peut pas être faux. C'est la vraie fin.
Stanley pushed the big
Ça peut pas être fini.
Now look closely, Stanley. See how it's impossible for the player to do anything in
Kevin
this room.
Brenton.
Perfect example of poor level design. Where were textbook mistakes? It's the kind of thing you pick up on intuitively. They're throwing a surprise party for him for all his button pushing. Does that sound plausible to you? But of course, you being you, you'll probably spend the next hour trying to solve it. Here, I'm just going to make this easy on you. Stanley walked over the bridge.
Waouh!
Let's see. Stanley?
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free. Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail.
Turn off your PlayStation. There's no other way to beat this game.
As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let...
J'arrête. Il me donne des leçons de vie, ce jeu, il est génial! Ouais, allez, bisous tout le monde, j'arrête le live.